Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and welcome back to Sentinel Reviews. Today we are returning to Big Finish to look at Doctor Who, The Sixth Doctor Adventures, The Quin Dilemma, released in March of 2024, directed by Samuel Clemens. The Quin Dilemma stars Colin Baker as the Sixth Doctor, and features Nicola Bryant as Perry Brown, Bonnie Langford as Mel Bush, Lisa Greenwood as Flip Ramone, Nay Jackson, and Miranda Raisin as Constance Clark. As always, I do these unscripted, so just in case I decide to veer into spoilers, I am putting a blanket spoiler warning in place. If you do not wish to be spoiled, then in the description box below is the link to Big Finish's website where you can purchase The Quin Dilemma. And much like a couple years ago when they did 40 for the Fifth Doctor, The Quin Dilemma is Big Finish's celebration of the 40th anniversary of the Sixth Doctor. If you are new to my channel, I never miss an opportunity to bring up that the Sixth Doctor, Colin Baker, is my favorite Doctor. So of course, I was excited for a set celebrating his anniversary. And of course, I was going to jump on it, especially because I haven't been doing a lot of Sixth Doctor stuff recently. Currently, at the moment, in the regular range of Sixth Doctor adventures, because this is kind of a special release, there is a story arc going on with Melanie Bush and his new companion Hebe, played by Ruth Madeley. That's, I think, kind of on hold at the moment because Ruth Madeley is in New Who. She is playing Unit's current scientific advisor, Shirley Ann Bingham. But from what I've heard from my friends and people I trust, when it comes to Big Finish, after that initial set, Waterworlds, the Hebe stuff is apparently not very good, so I just haven't really had an interest in it. And also my interest is divided in other things, particularly the spin-offs, so I haven't been able to go back and get some of the older Sixth Doctor releases I don't have yet, in particular the Flip and Constance stuff. So yeah, I've been a little starved for Sixth Doctor content for a while now, which is why I was finally excited that I was able to get this. And this does not disappoint. This is a really fun set. It's more comedic in nature. I want to say farcical, but I don't think it's a full-on farce. But I'm really happy for this because it's been a while, I feel, since we've gotten something edging a little more towards comedy. I feel like a lot of the Big Finish output recently, especially in the Doctor Who stuff, has been geared towards drama or being a little more serious or even in some cases melodramatic. So it's just refreshing to get something more comedic. I know I put a spoiler warning in place, but I don't want to go into detail on the stories because this set is six stories. Granted, they are roughly 20 to 30 minutes long, but still, like a 3 or 4 story box set usually has me making a 20-minute video, so I don't want to be here breaking down the stories and going into detail because we'll be here all night. But the 6 stories are, well, technically 5. The 6 stories are The Exaltation by Jacqueline Rayner, Escape from Holy Island by Chris Chapman, Sibling Rivalry and Children of the Revolution, which is a 2-parter by Robert Valentine, The Thousand Year Thaw by Chris Chapman, and The Firstborn by Jacqueline Rayner. I don't want to break down all the stories, but I will break down the first story, The Exaltation, because that really is setting the stage for what the rest of this set is. The Doctor and Mel are on the planet Arunapal, where they meet a new friend named Zeta. And they are here to witness this they're here because of a temporal disturbance of some kind that the Doctor is investigating. And while he's doing that, Mel is here witnessing a historic event, the titular Exaltation, where the king of Arunapal, King Otho, is going to declare one of his sons the heir apparent to the throne. Here's the issue, though. The king has quintuplet sons: Alonza, Irvis, Byron, Clarence, and Dellen, the titular Quins, all played by Johnny Broadbent. When I get into performances, stick a pin in that because I really want to talk about Johnny Broadbent. He is one of the highlights of this set. Now here's the problem. The Queen and her midwife disappeared shortly after the birth of her sons. So no one knows of the Quins who the firstborn is. So instead, the king has come up with a quest, and the son who succeeds in this quest will be the one who inherits the throne of Arunapal. The quest is to travel and find the person responsible for the queen's disappearance, the Doctor. And the scientists of Arunapal have found him in 4 different time zones. So this is what the Quin Dilemma is. The titular Quins are going to travel through time, 4 different points in time, to try in the 6th Doctor's life and try and capture the Doctor. So that's where we're starting. And I do want to say that both of these stories, that the wraparound framing device, the Exaltation, and then the final story, the Firstborn, these stories remind me heavily of the movie Stardust. I do want to emphasize the movie because I have never read the book, and I know the movie takes massive liberties with the book, but there is a subplot in that book about princes vying for a throne. This is just what this overall plot reminds me of. That being said, one of my few critiques of this set, nothing strong enough to be a complaint, is that I wish the stories were more narrative, because after this framing device, the stories exist in isolation, with the Quins kind of watching from the outside and waiting to pick up the Doctor, for the right moment to abduct the Doctor. So, what are the 4 points in the Sixth Doctor's life that we're going through? So, the Exaltation and the Firstborn is near the end of his life, with Mel, his final companion. Also in the Firstborn, there is a really great scene that the continuity nuts are going to love, because the 6th Doctor breaks down his entire timeline by companion. Escape from Holy Island is Perry and Herbert. We'll get back to that. Sibling rivalry and the Children of the Revolution is Flip and Constance. And then the 1,000-Year Thaw is older Perry after the events of Trial of a Time Lord. My mind went blank for a second, excuse me. Which, if you're familiar with Big Finish and the Older Perry arc, or the Older Perry trilogy, basically after the events of Trial of a Time Lord, the 6th Doctor travels back to Krontep after King Yakarnus' death, and meets up with Perry, now much older, and they travel with each other again. So, performances. Let's get to the performances. I've talked enough about the stories. Well, actually, I haven't, but performances. Let's talk about the performances. Of course, Colin Baker gets to shine here. Colin Baker never gives a bad performance. Even in bad stories, his performance is often one of the best things about them. And here, he just so masterfully plays the 6th Doctor at the different periods of his life. Whether it's his more acerbic, a little more brutish self at the start of his life with Perry and Herbert, whether it's his gentler side towards the end of his life with Mel, whether it's he's sort of at that turning point with Flip and Constance. Actually, I really like his performance in that 2-parter, Sibling Rivalry and the Children of the Revolution, because he and Miranda Raisin have such a good rapport with each other. I really like the way the Doctor and Constance talk with each other. The friendly barbs, the trading of quips. I really think that the Doctor and Constance their dynamic really gets to shine. Also, the Doctor and older Perry get to shine, because I feel like that story, the 1,000-Year Thaw, the bulk of the scenes with the Doctor and Perry are really a commentary on season 22. Season 22 being Colin Baker's first season. The detractors of that season really complain about how, for lack of a better word, abusive the dynamic between the Doctor and Perry is. And having the Doctor and this older Perry finally address that elephant in the room, which I don't think Big Finish has ever done before. It's a really touching, really well executed scene that Colin Baker and Nicola Bryant just play wonderfully, kind of getting to air all their grievances and reaffirm their friendship, even bringing up the very controversial moment where, in the insanity of his post-regenerative trauma, the Sixth Doctor strangled Perry in his first story, The Twin Dilemma. Similarly, in terms of performance, Nicola Bryant is also great at playing the younger, more brash, kind of almost naive Perry in a way, and the older, more experienced, but still very headstrong Perry. And there's a scene in the finale where both Perrys interact, and Nicola Bryant does so good at differentiating between them. Bonnie Langford is good too. I really like her in Big Finish, how they've kind of toned her down, mellowed her out a little bit. Like, one of the things in the behind the scenes stuff that Bonnie Langford always complained about in her time on Doctor Who is how kind of damselly Mel was with, the constant screaming at the side of the monsters. And one of the stipulations for her doing Big Finish and playing Mel again was kind of mellowing her out, making her smarter. And she is really well done here too. Miranda Raisin, I already kind of talked about. Her rapport with Colin Baker is great. And Lisa Greenwood is back. I've only heard a handful of Flip stories. I haven't heard everything, but it's so nice to hear her back. If you're unfamiliar, at the start of the pandemic, Lisa Greenwood contracted long COVID, and she has been battling these symptoms for years. And only recently she has started recovering enough, started being well enough again to record. It is so nice that she was well enough to do this. You can tell in her performance, she's not well enough to be fully there 100%. And you can tell too, because the story is structured around that. Like, I think in Children of the Revolution, Sibling Rivalry, The Children of the Revolution, and the final story, The Firstborn, she maybe has a total of 4 or 5 scenes, and they're all very brief. But despite that, I am so glad she felt well enough to do this. She was sorely missed. That is something too I want to bring up as well. With Colin Baker's performance, who again is just amazing. I feel like the finale story, The Firstborn, has all the doctors throughout the Sixth Doctor's life meeting each other. And I don't feel the story or the direction do enough to differentiate between them. Like, just to make a comparison, another story with kind of this premise of multiple Sixth Doctors interacting, The Wrong Doctors, which, if you don't read the books, is technically Mel's introduction story. Basically, the Sixth Doctor in that story, after parting ways with Evelyn Smythe, decides it's finally time to meet Mel. So he goes to where he knows he's going to meet her, because the Evelyn stuff takes place sometime after Trial of the Time Lord. Meanwhile, the Sixth Doctor, immediately after the events of Trial of a Time Lord, drops Mel off at the point of their first meeting, to try and keep the timeline in check. But, there's shenanigans going on, of course. The Wrong Doctors is a wild story, and that's putting it mildly. But in that story, the post-Evelyn Six and the post-Trial Six often interact with each other, and Colin Baker just does a masterful job of differentiating them. And, when we listen to that story, we can tell them apart. Here, with the 4 different Sixth Doctors, not as well a job is done at telling them apart. And there's really nothing more to say to that. I don't know if it's a fault of the story itself, not, writing to their different personalities at the various points of time, or if it's the direction. But yeah, just compared to The Wrong Doctors, this story doesn't do as good a job of juggling multiple Sixth Doctors at once. Other performances, like I said, Johnny Broadbent as the titular Quins, he is also really good because he has to play 5 different characters, and they all have different personalities, and they're all idiots. So, the Quins are where a lot of the humor of this set comes from, but he similarly does a good job of juggling multiple characters. This is best exemplified, again, in that 2-parter in the middle of the story, Sibling Rivalry, The Children of the Revolution, because Clarence and Dellen, 2 of the Quins, have been sort of stuck with competing to capture one Doctor. But across the set, he does really good at just showing the different aspects of the different Quins. Anything else I want to talk about? Oh, yes, Herbert. Sorry. Herbert, like, I hope this is the start of something we'll be seeing in the future, because this is something I have wanted forever. So the TV story, Time Lash. Not a great story. In fact, it's often cited as one of the Sixth Doctor's worst. It's a story I love for all the wrong reasons. It's one of the few bad Classic Who stories that I think is so bad it's good. This story is hilarious. But there is a plot element of it. During the events of the story, the Sixth Doctor picks up a stowaway, a young man named Herbert. And then by the end of the story, it is revealed that Herbert is in fact H.G. Wells, the author. And the story ends with the Doctor and Perry commenting that they have to take Herbert back home. But that's where the story ends, because the next story after that is the season finale, Revolution of the Daleks. So I've always felt there's been kind of a gap there that I don't think anyone has really exploited, that I've always wanted to see explored. In trying to get Herbert home, H.G. Wells briefly becomes a companion. And this story starts that. Herbert is still very inquisitive, very sort of questioning everything around him that he's witnessing. He's not as annoying as he was in Time Lash. He's not even played by the same actor. From what I was able to find, and I was not able to find a lot, it looks like Kyle Chandler, since doing Time Lash, had retired from acting. Like I said, I wasn't able to find very much, and when you look up Kyle Chandler, you get a few results for a bunch of different Kyle Chandlers. But here he's played by Philip Levy. He is toned down, so he's not as annoying as he was in Time Lash, but I hope this means that at some point in the future, we will be getting some Sixth Doctor, Perry, Herbert stories of some kind. Because like I said, I feel like there's a gap there that could be exploited, and it's something I've always wanted to see as one of the defenders of Time Lash. Again, not because it's a good story. I don't really think I have anything to say. The Sixth Doctor Adventures, The Quin Dilemma, is a brilliant exploration of the Sixth Doctor's era, and it's a great anniversary celebration. Colin Baker is brilliant as always, and we have some terrific performances from all of the cast, from Bonnie Langford, Nicola Bryant, Miranda Raisin. It's so nice to have Lisa Greenwood back in the limited capacity she is. And even Johnny Broadbent as the kind of main antagonist is also really fun. And it is very nice and refreshing to get a more comical story. But those are just my thoughts. Have you heard the Quin Dilemma? What are yours? Please start a conversation in the comments below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Click the bell next to subscribe to get notifications when I upload. Share the video around, please. All of it helps my channel grow. And in the description box below, you'll find the link to my socials, where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and I'll see you guys next time.